I know, guys, I know I put this video off just for a little bit, but that's because I was kinda dead yesterday, and I didn't want to spam your uploads with videos, but I'm here today. It's the day after the NHL Draft Lottery, and I'm making this video to ask you guys, who are the Vancouver Canucks drafting at 10th overall? Because obviously the Canucks, my favorite team, I mentioned it in my draft reactions video. I wanted them to pick first because Jack Hughes, the draft is in Vancouver, Quinn Hughes, obviously. It's an easy narrative to figure out. But we drop one spot from 9 to 10, and now we're in a position where mock drafts everywhere have us either taking Peyton Krebs or Matthew Boldy. Either that or weird draft picks like Bowen Byram. And first off, that's not going to happen because Byram's not going to be available at 10. You heard it here, folks. But the Vancouver Canucks are in a position where they could really just go with anybody they want. And I mentioned this in my draft reactions video yesterday too. I like our position, not just because I can make why I want videos on basically anybody and it's going to make sense, but because we have so much freedom, basically, in the direction that we want to go with this draft. Now, establishing the top 9 picks in the NHL draft, we're going to be doing that just so we know who's available at 10. And establishing those top 9 picks, it's going to be kind of hard, it's going to be kind of easy, because there are a few guys who are definitely going to be gone, and there are a few who probably are, and then there are some who you don't even know. So establishing it, top 4, okay, Hughes and Kakko, yes, they are gone. Now, from 3 all the way to 10, it's a little bit of a toss-up. Because you got pairs, you got groups of guys that people usually label together. And for this top 10, it's usually the same 2 groups of guys. You got the WHL guys, Byram, Krebs, Dach, and Cozens, and you got the US NTDP guys, Zegras, Turcotte, Boldy, Caulfield. And among those guys, it's usually swapped up a little bit. Some guys have Cozens going 3, some have Byram going 3, some have Krebs going in top 5. But other than that, the only other person that interjects himself into that list is Vasily Podkolzin. So for the sake of a mock draft or the Vancouver Canucks circumstances, let's say Podkolzin goes 3rd, and just for the sake of Colorado, let's say that Byram goes 4. So that's taking guys off of the board already. Hughes, Kakko, Podkolzin, Byram. Then, from 5 to 9, we can really interchange any of the forwards. Krebs, Cozens, Dach, Turcotte, Zegras, Boldy. And that's really just the shuffling that goes on. You could really shuffle all those guys. So, for the sake of the Vancouver Canucks, let's assume that the best centers are gone. Or at least the biggest centers and the centers that are higher up on draft lists. So no Cozens, no more Dach, no more Turcotte, no more Zegras. Now going into number 9 and 10, this is where you start to usually pull off Boldy and Krebs. So assume one of those guys is available, one of those guys is gone. The Vancouver Canucks, who do they pick among Boldy, Krebs, and let's just say, I don't know, Soderstrom or Kaliev, or any of the guys who are available afterwards? I think just from a positional need, the Vancouver Canucks going with a guy like Peyton Krebs or Matthew Boldy would be very beneficial to the team. Just because we built up our right wing, we got Brock Besser, we built up our centers really well, we got Elias Pettersson, Bo Horvat, Gaudette, etc. Our lefty, Hughes, Juolevi, Hutton, some other guys that we got, and on the right D, we have Jet Wu, who is technically our best bet for the future, although not super highly elite, still a solid option, along with guys like Troy Stecher and all that. So where do the Canucks go then? Do they go to the right-handed defender in Victor Soderstrom, or do they stick with a left winger who could really be slotted on a top-line left wing spot with Besser and Pettersson? Let's just say in Boldy or Krebs. Honestly, if I had to choose one though, I would go with Krebs, just because he's got that whole drive factor to him. Jim Benning and the scouting staff really do value work ethic and drive, and Krebs is the #1 example of that in this draft. There's a reason why Krebs is so highly touted. Some people have Krebs going in number 5. Some have him going as low as 11 or 12. The thing with Krebs is, I've seen the comparison made to Tyler Mott, which is not terrible. Like, I can totally see where you're coming from if you say Tyler Mott, especially in my own comments section. People have been like, yeah, Krebs just seems like another Mott. But in my opinion, if you believe that, then you don't know who Peyton Krebs is. Because Krebs is not just a guy who has an engine, he's also a really good, talented passer, elite playmaking ability, and the reason he was just only a point per game in his draft year, the reason he was a minus 50, is because the Kootenay Ice were just so bad. You're underestimating how bad the Kootenay Ice were this year. They had a plus-minus goal differential of minus 143. And in their 68 games played, they only won 13 times. Krebs was just barely able to get a point per game, and he took the blunt force of all of that damage on the team. Because Krebs was the captain, Krebs was the main big dog, which is why he would get played so much, which is why his plus-minus was bad. Now, Krebs is so good at playmaking, and he's so good at reading the play, his vision is incredible, it's just looking at the numbers, you wouldn't be able to see that. You gotta be able to watch these games and understand that Krebs is doing amazing things out there. It's just that the teammates aren't there to put the puck in. Which is why Krebs is so highly touted, despite being on a bad team, and despite having a quite unremarkable-ish record. I mean, let's face it, a point per game, it's pretty good, but for a top NHL prospect in his draft year, it's not necessarily good, especially for the WHL. Like, even some defensemen get points at that rate. But everything kind of seems like it's lining up, if I'm going to be honest. A good old Canadian kid playing for a BC team, and a guy who a lot of Vancouver fans really kind of wanted, and for good reason, because he's got such a strong work ethic, and he's so powerful out there on the ice. Now, don't get me wrong, we could have a chance at taking Matthew Boldy as well. That's why for this scenario, we're envisioning whether or not Krebs or Boldy are available because they are in the same position, and they could just be interchangeable depending on what your preference is. But if it's one or the other, I think the Canucks would probably go with Krebs. If they did choose Boldy because Krebs had gone earlier, I would be perfectly fine with that as well, especially because Boldy is such a strong hockey talent. But overall, I don't know if we go the right D route. I don't know if we go with Victor Soderstrom or any of the other right defensemen that are available. I think just by the virtue of best player available and the draft being in Vancouver and everything, they're probably going to go with somebody who deserves to go in that spot. I don't think we're reaching like we did with Pettersson. Pettersson was supposed to go like 9 and he went 5th. So overall, I don't see that happening again, but I do see the Vancouver Canucks going with the pick that most people would probably expect. I mean, if they go for somebody off the board completely, like Bobby Brink, oh, I'd love that too. But it depends on who it is. For Brink specifically, I would love that, but I could see how it could really freak out some other Canucks fans. But overall, Peyton Krebs seems like the guy to me. What about you guys? Don't say Bowen Byram. He's not going to be available. Hot take. But other than that, there are a few other perspectives you could bring up, but overall, this is what I think. Who are the Canucks drafting at 10? You guys tell me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Twitter +9 Gaming. And bye.